Michael Chadwell, and I am one of your hosts. I also have Caleb Alexander, who is a New York Times bestseller, and we also have Chris Dawkins. So we've had a lot of hot topics this week, a lot of hot topics. Of course, in our last segment, we talked about the former president, 45, Donald J. Trump, him getting those 34 felony counts. But there's also some other news that we want to talk about. First of all, we have the new greatest of all times, Josh Gibson, who was a member of the Negro League, and his stats were added to the Major League Baseball. So why is this a hot topic? Well, the excellence of our black baseball players is being recognized, and it's displacing the records of those of Ty Cobb and Babe Ruth. So folks are upset. What do you guys think?
Well, first of all, just to give some context, how this came about is the Major League Baseball looked at and tried to figure out how they were going to bring in the statistics of the Negro League. So what they did is they said they're going to take the statistics of the Negro League and bring them in to the Major League, and everybody would basically be equal. So once they did that, they could not then say, we're still going to keep Ty Cobb as the leader, because then they looked at Josh Gibson's record and saw that he had more hits than Ty Cobb did. So that's how he became the leader. So it's really fascinating how they really decided to do that. I'm glad that they did. And now even people like what's the guy, Barry Bonds, his record is not as stellar as it had looked before the Negro Baseball League.
Right. But it looks good.
Yeah.
Okay. But see, and here's the deal though. MLB did the same thing. They took old American League records, they took old National League records, and they integrated all those records. Right. And so it's only fair that you could take Negro League the same way you did American, the same way you did National. You take Negro League and you integrate those as well. And like I said, they mad, they big mad. That's fine. They can put on a cape and be super mad for all I care. But it's just it's their racism again is showing. You know what I mean? And that's why they're big mad.
But I'll say this: it's the racism of the fans, and not necessarily the Major League Baseball, because Major League Baseball actually did this. Right. And Major League Baseball has been willing to acknowledge black players, whereas the NFL, they ain't doing a damn thing.
Well, I mean, and the other thing is, though, one of the arguments of the big mad crowd is that they're saying that the Negro League was inferior to the American League and the National League, the other two leagues that were around at that time, which is 100% not true. The superior league out of all of those would have been the Negro League Baseball.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so you clearly see what happened once baseball was integrated, and the players that came over from the Negro League completely dominated Major League Baseball.
Because I think what ended up happening is that Major League Baseball, their numbers were waning. And the Major League Baseball, they always had packed houses. And the guy, I can't remember the guy who brought Jackie Robinson in, he wanted to figure out how he could pack the houses. So once he finally figured out, he decided to bring him in, okay? And then that's when things started happening. So, definitely what you're saying is correct. If Major League or the Negro League was more superior than actually anything else, but they couldn't play with the Major League, so you never could really have it. When the black players went to the Major Leagues, they dominated.
Yeah, that's the same with every sport.
It's the same with everything.
That's
the same with everything. They need us for whatever reasons that they need us.
But one of these days, I know you're going to have the subject about the Japanese people talking about black folks having babies. So I don't know what's happening in America.
I'm still looking for that article. Once I find that article, you can definitely rest assured I may do a special hot topics on that piece alone.
Everybody all over the world is beginning to see what the black man can do, and they even paying for his sperm to be able to be there.
Okay. So right now, I know we should be talking about Josh Gibbons.
Yeah, we should be talking about.
Okay.
But let's talk about, I'm just going to throw this in. On YouTube, there is a trend, supposedly, where the Japanese government is asking for black men, preferably immigrants, which is kind of strange to me because if you go to Japan, technically you're an immigrant, right? But they want black men, supposedly, because I can't find the hard article on it yet. I'm talking about from the Japanese Times or something like that, where they're looking for black men to come in and impregnate their...
Or marry, right? Is it marry or...
Impregnate their women, Japanese women, to help increase the birth rate in that country. Now, if this is true, they're going to pay the black man $75,000 per child.
Sign me up.
You're old. So I was looking at these different YouTube articles, these YouTube videos, and I was cracking up because some brother says, I don't like their food. Can I just order me a couple of them women, and if they come over to the United States, I do what I got to do and send them on back. So I really want to find this article because there's so many questions of what is the catch? There's always a catch, but right now I can't find the article. So that would be interesting if it is true. And how many brothers who were passporting it to South America were passported over to the land of the rising sun?
So if anybody has that article, please put it in the chat or send us an email.
Because I've been looking for the article. I'm looking one from a reliable newspaper source. Again, I looked at the Japanese Times. I didn't see anything there. So I'm not talking about from GoRunit.com. No. I'm talking about, I'm looking for a legit source. And once I find a legit source, then I'm going to talk about it. I'm going to read about it. We're going to talk about it. Have
And
fun
how
with
this
it.
ties in is that Japan wants their own Ty Gibson, okay? So they're asking the black man to be able to make some of those. They tired of losing in the Olympics as well.
They're tired. All righty. American Airlines. I'm through. I'm through. So American Airlines has been hit with a racial discrimination lawsuit for temporarily removing 8 black men from a flight after a white flight attendant complained of the body odor of a passenger.
Where were they from?
That's what I was going.
Who?
The black
The men.
passengers.
Well, supposedly these men came in from different areas, and it just happened in Arizona.
Well, now can you put up the
Where
picture
were
again
they?
there?
Where they originally from?
I don't know.
I
And
can-
so they're different cultures globally
right.
Right.
that have different
Bathing habits.
habits. Exactly.
And don't believe in deodorant.
Right. Now, and I say this because I was on a train in Italy, and it was a group of folks that got on the train that were gag-a-maggot. So I can understand. I can kind of understand. It don't have to be black folks, but there's some folks that got on that train that had me, rethinking life. So I can kind of understand a little bit.
And I can remember as a young kid going to the Caribbean, and it was the same thing. They didn't, to use deodorant was feminine. So
Right.
you didn't do that. So the men who were there, they had a very strong odor.
Right. And I don't know whether it was I don't think they just got to eating something that wasn't really, but it was yeah.
Well, this was a dangerous move, though. This was
Yeah,
a dangerous
that
move
was,
because
that
if
was.
they weren't sitting together and they were randomly pulling these black men off the plane,
Now that's different.
now that's a situation.
Right.
But if they had asked maybe just if it was since
It was-
that one person
Right.
that was spunking up the aisle
Right.
and said, "Would you mind coming with us for a minute?"
And they
Yeah.
tried to move them, didn't they?
It went to other flights.
Oh, I thought they tried to move them to different seats. Okay.
To other flights.
Put their ass all together in the back.
But I don't know. I've been on the flight with some folks who were stinky.
Right.
I've been with folks on the flight who couldn't keep their kids under control.
Oh,
Ooh, I hate them. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So if the parents can't keep their child under control, should they be invited off the plane as well?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Or
So
put-
I'm not saying that the attendant probably shouldn't have done what he did do, but it begs the question: what about other scenarios?
right.
Other scenarios.
Right. And again, like, we, again, I don't know. I wasn't there. We all have our, human natures that we all have. We all prejudge others. You know what I mean? And so I don't know if that was the situation in this case. And I think we'll never know if these people have been from Scandinavia. You know what I mean? And would this have had the same outcome? You know what I mean?
And I actually worked with a young man
Mm-hmm.
who had a body odor issue, but it was a medical issue.
Mm-hmm.
And his clothes were clean. He was just a clean person, but he had a medical issue where this body odor, not because he was nasty,
Right.
not because of what he ate last night, but
Right.
he had this medical issue that
Right.
generated a body odor.
Right.
And so what we had to do was, he was an effective worker too. So you got this guy who has his body odor problem, but it does impact productivity in the office, right? So to keep him as a member of the group, we reconfigured with his permission. We got his permission to do this. We reconfigure the cubicle to where to where we had.
Box to me.
Well,
Two fans inside. Keep on there.
we reconfigured the way we had a wall here, there was like a little wall here, and then the door.
A little interest for him.
And one of the other workers in the office said, I will work in the office with him so that he has someone to talk to. Now, of course, we were always wondering about this person anyway, right? Because he looked like he'd been to your hometown a lot, Jamaica. It was on that Ganji. But since he agreed to be in the room with him, everything was fine. Everything was fine.
Well, let me ask a question. I think you kind of answered it, in one regard. But if you are president or head of American Airlines, how do you think that should have been handled?
No, I mean, again, you never want to jump to conclusions, right? And so if these guys were just different, they didn't come on the airline together, they didn't know each other, and they were sitting in different spots, and they all are black, then I'd be like, okay, now what's going on here? You know what I mean? Now, if they came onto the airline as a group, you know what I mean? And so, and they're all from the same place or whatever, you can say, okay, different cultures have different traditions or whatever, different bathing habits or
But how do
rituals
you
and
alleviate?
So, I mean, again, it's just, it's information, it's investigation, you have to investigate. You have to investigate the circumstances. Now, if you're just going through and say, okay, this is a black person and they smell a certain way, you know what I mean? And so or this is a black person over here, these two are not related, don't know each other, nothing, but this is a black person, they smell a certain way, then the onus is on that flight attendant. You need either some cultural sensitivity training, you need to be somewhere where you are, exposed to different cultures.
Here's
You know what I
the
mean?
one thing that I say about that is, they tried to find a different airline, but a different flight to put them on.
Right.
So you still haven't alleviated the situation.
Right.
You just moved it on to
from whatever flight attendant that was. Right.
So you haven't solved the problem. So to me, American Airlines still never figured out how to solve the problem.
right. No,
What they could have done was just get a private jet.
No, they ain't doing
so
that.
shoot, no, but to me, to those three black men, you get your money. Get you a lawyer, and get your money. Huh? It was 8 of them? Oh, well, yeah, get y'all money. Get y'all money, fam. You know what I mean? Shoot.
Airlines, I'm going to share it. What happened to me when I went to Hawaii late recently. I'm minding my own business.
Mm-hmm.
this man in front of me threw that seat back to where he was literally in my lap. Okay. Now I'm agile enough to where I can literally pull my seat up, my legs up into the seat with me and get comfortable. But the idea of flying over that much water
Exactly.
with this man's head in my lap was not the ideal situation, right? And I did all kind of things to let him know to move that seat up.
Right.
You know, he wouldn't move. Now, somewhere on that plane was security, right? And I know that I didn't want to be looking like I was a troublemaker. So I got up, went back to the stewardess and told them my situation. I said, you got a problem. Evidently, he's not going to move. And evidently, I got to get to where I need to go. The seat, the flight was booked. They walked around to see if there was anywhere else they could put me. So what they did was they said, look, periodically come back here and sit with us. And they set aside bottles of wine for me. I think they were trying to get me drunk to keep me happy, okay? Bottles of wine to drink before I went back to my seat. So by the time we got to LA, of course, I was feeling nice. They asked me if everything was okay. They would periodically come down there saying, is everything okay? But they were trying to make sure that I stayed happy. Because I probably could have raised sand with Hawaiian Airlines, say, hey. You know, but they were trying to do everything that they could within reason, especially over all that water. Because what are we going to do, kick the man off the plane?
They can make him raise his damn seat up a little bit, but me, I'd have started coughing. I'd act like I had some kind of disease. He'd have lifted that damn seat up.
But to your point, this probably could have been handled differently. But I think what American Airlines could have done was says, look, you got an odor. The odor ain't going away. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and charter you a flight on one of those private planes and get you to where you need to go to.
That's too much money. At that point, if I'm president of American Airlines, y'all just better deal with Steve. I ain't chartered no money.
Well, they're going to get a lawsuit, either charter the plane or pay this large sum of money that's going to have to come out their pocket.
No, they just sit where they going to sit, and we going to go where we going to go. But I ain't chartered you no plane.
But then, you know, the 8 brothers need to get their lawyer together.
Oh, they got that.
Oh, yeah, they get their paper.
They got that.
Get their paper. And I promise you that whatever stewardess, whatever, is probably not going to have a job.
You want me to put on Soul Plane?
No, because once he done cost that airline some money, the next one ain't gonna hire him either.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? No, that's gonna cost him a job. So if you, and like I said, I'm gonna do so. I gotta look into that. So if it was 8 random black people who had nothing to do with each other, didn't know each other, didn't come on a plane together, sitting in different spots, yeah, no, that's definitely that stewardess has a problem.
And especially we don't know what Sharon. You know, it could have been a medical issue that one of them may have had. We don't know.
If it's a medical issue,
the one, but what about the other 7?
And if it's a medical issue,
they really got a problem.
Yeah.
So,
Definitely.
Supreme Court Justice Alito, what's his name? Samuel Alito?
Samuel
Alito. Story about the upside down flag fiasco isn't fully adding up.
Right.
So you introduced this topic last week.
Did we mention that? Did we mention that a little bit?
So you want to go in? You want to talk a little bit more about this?
I mean, we can. I mean, like I say, it's he blamed it on his wife.
Each time.
Then he blamed it on my wife Alito. So he said that his wife flew the flag upside down in response to inappropriate signage that was in a neighbor's yard. Now, I don't understand how that correlates. Flying the American flag upside down because your neighbor has a sign in their yard that you don't like, I can't put the two together. So, and then they flew the Appeal to Heaven flag and a fully insurrectionist flag at their beach house. So, and I read a post where I think a woman put this appropriately. She said, a guy who can't control his wife sure has a lot to say about how women control their bodies, how other women control their bodies. You know what I mean? So I again, the story is not adding up, and I think he needs to concentrate on getting control of
His house.
Mrs. Alito's activities before he tries to regulate what another woman does with her body.
I do too. I do too. You got anything you want to say?
I just think it's something that Alito and Clarence Thomas always want to put it off on their wives. Okay. Jenny has kind of done the things, and he's saying, well, what Jenny does,
I can't control.
I can't control, and so that's what they've done. You're going to have to decide, first of all, with this election that's coming up, if you don't have enough Democrats that are elected into office, then this is going to be what it's going to be. If you do have enough Democrats that are elected, then what you will have is you'll have an ethics council or an ethics code that will be for the Supreme Court justices. So again, those people who talk about that they either don't want to vote, those people who talk about that they don't want to vote for Biden, this is what is at stake. And you must understand what's at stake with voting. And we talked about in the first segment, second segment, third segment about what is happening with our president and what's going to go on. So you really got to understand the breadth of everything that's going on. And those people who choose not to understand what's going on puts the whole race in peril.
Mm-hmm. And you know what? And the thing is, I'm honestly, I think, I know Biden, he's a product of the Senate. He was in the Senate for decades. He's kind of this compromise guy, which again, he didn't compromise when it came to the crime bill and locking up black folks. But he has this kind of chummy, collegial Senate kind of deal. He's trying he's trying everything he can to lose this election because he's not where his party is.
No,
he's not.
You're saying Biden?
Biden is not where his party is. His party right now, one of the biggest issues is defunding Israel, stopping the war in Gaza. He's refused to defund or stop arms flow to Israel. That is a major issue, especially a major issue to get young folks out there to vote.
Look,
that's a major issue.
I agree with you to a point. Mm-hmm. When you've got a first-term president who is trying to be a second-term president, and you have so many Muslims in this country,
right,
as well as you've got the money of the Israelis who are here, and you've got to try to balance both of that to make it happen, that's a very difficult job to try to balance all of that. I'm not negating anything that you said, but I'm just saying if you're a politician and you're trying to run and you see these different factions that are out there that you've got to try to be the president to everybody, how do you do that? And especially in an America where you got a capitalistic society and you need the money of the Israelis, what do you do?
Well, he's making the same mistake Obama made. He's trying to appeal to folks who are never going to vote for him anyway. They're never going to vote for him anyway. They're never going to send him money anyway. So
you say that, but that's an assumption.
They haven't. So, I mean, they just haven't. Those folks haven't. They haven't supported him. They didn't support Obama because Obama had a worse relationship with Netanyahu than Biden has.
That's
so
right.
those folks aren't going to send him money. They aren't going to vote for him. They aren't going to send him money regardless. So, but what he's doing, in addition to trying to appeal or balance a policy out with folks who aren't going to support him anyway, is he's alienating the folks that do support him. You know what I mean? And so, and it's not about the Palestinian folks. It's about young voters. He's turned off young voters. That's who's on those college campuses. That's who's being vocal. That's who's at risk. That's who's facing the police. That's who's facing expulsion. If you're passionate enough to risk not graduating or risk getting suspended or expelled from college, those folks are passionate about this subject. And so if you're looking for voters who are motivated and passionate, who are going to get out there and campaign for you, you found them. But you just have to reach out to them and let them know that, hey, I hear you, I see you, I feel you, and this is what I'm trying to do. And these are the policies I'm going to put in place. So I'm going to give Israel 20 days. I'm going to give Israel 30 days. And after that, we're going to start defunding Israel. We're going to start
Okay, so what about his last plan that he just came up with this week? He said, okay, we've got a ceasefire, that we want to put in place.
Right.
Hamas said, we ain't gonna go with the ceasefire unless
I wouldn't either.
Unless Israel says they're gonna quit advancing.
Exactly.
Okay.
So if I go and I go and I take and I sit in Sharon's backyard, right? I take Sharon's backyard, and now all of a sudden I want a ceasefire, and Sharon's gonna be like, well, you got to get the hell out of my backyard before we agree to peace. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so that it's Israel can't keep what it's gained and then want a ceasefire after you've taken all my territory, after you destroyed all my buildings, killed tens of thousands of my people, and then now you want a ceasefire, and now you want to keep all the territory that you. No, you got to get out of here. You got to go home.
Bottom line for me is, you got right now. If it stands the way it's going to be right now, you got Trump, you got Biden. From my standpoint, you got to vote for Biden. Once you vote for Biden, you got to hopefully say that you can sway him to do, or hope that he will do the right thing at that particular time, because he's a lame duck at that point.
Right. But young folks ain't gonna see it like that. Young folks will be like, you know what?
I understand.
I don't like neither one of them, so I'm staying home.
I understand. But it's to their own peril.
And especially with the recent move of the Israeli woman that was under the Biden administration, that she resigned because she was totally against what was happening in Gaza.
You've had a few people from the State Department that have resigned over this policy, and so, like I say, it's he's trying hard to lose this. He's trying. The people who are passionate and motivated.
So we got Biden trying hard to lose, and Trump trying hard to get in jail.
Yeah, you got two people who probably look like they don't want the job. Really, you know what I mean? You got so that's what I mean. That's what it looks like, and so it's a situation that is turning off. It is turning off young voters, but and I know we got sidetracked, but it's just again, it's the when you talk about the Alito thing, and you talk about this supposed party of law and order who was so patriotic about the flag, and so they turned Kaepernick's protest over the killing of unarmed black men into a protest over disrespecting the American flag. So the American flag, who they wrapped themselves around and wrapped themselves in,
hang on the back of their truck.
Right, they love it to death. Now all of a sudden, Alito has it upside down. They're okay with it.
As we begin to close out, let me ask a question.
Sure.
Do you put or force term limits on Supreme Court justices?
They should. And again, if Biden had cojones, he would expand the court. You know what I mean? He would expand it from 9 to 11.
He can't do it.
Yeah, he can. Constitutionally, he can expand that court. That was one of the threats that they have made initially.
Congress?
Congress, the Senate can expand the Supreme Court. That was one of the threats that they have made initially, was to expand the courts. Biden needs the cojones, and the Democrats in the Senate need the cojones to expand the court from 9 to 11. You know what I mean? Hell, I think it was FDR that threatened to put 15 or 20. So it's possible, and just even the threat of doing that. You know what I mean? Again, like you said, the Democrats are weak with no spine.
We'll see.
What's going to happen is this: if Biden doesn't do that, expand the Supreme Court.
And he loses.
Trump will probably do it.
And Trump will get another. Trump's already going to get another. Whoever wins the election is probably going to get another pick anyway. Or two. Yeah, they're going to get another pick or two. And if that happens, the Supreme Court is going to be far, far, far right for probably the next 20 years. Because those Kagan, not Kagan.
Jackson and
the two Trump appointees. what is it?
Barnett and
Kavanaugh.
Kavanaugh.
Kavanaugh is young enough, and the other one, the chick on there who's
Amy
Barnett.
Barrett Cohen.
Amy
Amy
Barrett,
Barrett,
I said-
who should never, she should have even been sweeping the courts, let alone been on the courts. She is young enough to where they're gonna shift the balance of that court for the next 20 years.
Well, we got one more hot topic I want to throw out here about, which is a result of a mega governor. Houston ISD, Houston Independent School District, was taken over by the state, and a man by the name of Mike Mills, Mike Miles, who had no classroom experience as the superintendent over the district. And so there's been a lot of controversies out of there where qualified administrators who were stellar administrators were let go. We have situations out there to where librarians have been laid off, libraries have been closed, all kind of allegations have been thrown out there. But the biggest thing that Representative Al Green has really raised caution about is the fact that it looks like Mike Miles is shifting money from the district over to a voucher system in Colorado that he used to work for. And so this pretty much aligns with what the governor's trying to do, is to push a school voucher system in Texas. And now if Mike Miles is doing what he's doing, then to me, that paves way to a lot more money that is collected from state taxpayers for public education to go into the voucher system, to where more money will be shifted out of the state to support voucher systems in other states. So that is a major, major, major red flag.
Yeah.
You were going to say something?
No.
So
No.
and a lot of school districts are in deficit. Houston ISD, they're struggling to close a $450 million deficit. And I constantly get emails from former mentees and friends who work in Houston trying to help me, can I use you as a reference for other jobs? So my heart goes out to Houston ISD. First of all, we need to get rid of this governor because he's dangerous. That tree didn't fall, didn't do what it was supposed to do to kind of make him have more humility. He has become meaner. The education of our kids, and predominantly black kids and Hispanic kids in Houston, is at risk because they don't have the teachers in the classrooms to give them the instruction that they need. They don't have the resources now because of this money being shifted to other locations. So that, to me, that is a continued hot topic. That's a situation to where San Antonio had a couple of situations to where the state is on the verge of takeover.
Right, and they're closing. Was it 23 schools?
Here,
SAISD.
yes.
SAISD is closing 23 schools, and they're not closing them. The area that district covers, and so those are
Black, Hispanic.
Those are Black and Hispanic schools that are going to be closed. Black and Hispanic schools where the kids are going to spend more time on a bus in the morning, more time on a bus in the evening. A lot of those kids are on lunch programs. So by the time they get bused to their new schools, what's that going to look like? Having to run through, chug down some food real quick, and then run to class, with not the nutrition that they needed. A lot of times they may even be late for class, no time to study in the morning. So again, it does affect, those school closures are definitely going to affect black kids, their nutrition, their education, which ultimately affects their education. Same thing in Houston. I mean, Houston, the Houston ISD, those kids are predominantly black and Latino kids. And so this takeover, and the shifting of funds away from an already underfunded district that's deeply running in the deficit, it's the same thing. It's just they do not care about educating Black and Latino kids.
And see, what a lot of folks have to understand too, and I know we're getting close on time, is that the education system historically was never designed for us regular folks. It was only designed for white men from wealthy families. That's who it was designed for. So again, if we got the Trumpites who are trying to throw things back in time, well, they're already on the verge of doing it with some of the actions that we're seeing, taking over schools, taking away funding, taking away special ed funding, taking away summer food programs that help feed these kids. So they're already, showing us who they are.
Yeah. Vouchers have been their dream for decades. Betsy DeVos was going to be the one to get it done, and they ran out of time. He wasn't reelected.
And some people have got to understand too is that the voucher systems, if done correctly, I don't have a problem with. But a report came across my desk where the costs where most of the money will be spent will be on raising the salaries of administrators.
And the vouchers, and of course, remember in the voucher system, they don't have to take those charter schools, and they don't have to take the kids who are suffering, who have any kind of mental disabilities or physical disabilities. They don't have to take those kids, and so those kids who are already, they already have a strike against them. You know what I mean? So those kids they get thrown into an underfunded school system. You know what I mean? Where the teachers are teachers are underfunded, the classroom, the resources are already underfunded, and they're already dealing with other issues, physical and mental disabilities. And so the voucher program, again, it's a system that picks and chooses winners, and winners and losers. And so and again, the voucher program is also about being able to pull white kids out of deficient schools and place them into better schools and have everybody's taxes paid for it.
Yes. Well, we've had a lot to say today, and we want to thank you all for listening in on our discussions. And as always, make sure you hit the like and subscribe buttons, and we will see you next week. And as we like to say, this is Contemporary Black Voices, where we talk about our stories our way.